everything is on social media right now. Everything is going viral.
What I hear from a lot of Black Americans is that Black Americans who are bi-ethnic have a dual allegiance. And to me, I would just like to hear some explanation as to why people feel that way, and concrete backing as to why people feel that's how all bi-ethnics operate. So again, if anyone wants to grab the mic, I don't want to jump into like my point of view before I hear from others first. Welcome to the space. I see a few people in here that I've actually, quite a few that I've never talked to before in the space because it's been a minute since I had one. So yeah, I personally feel like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna say what I feel until somebody talks because I can talk about this, but like I said, I've been in a few other spaces where people have said this word quite often for quite some time, at least a few years. And there's a few people who explained it down the timeline. Because I posted a tweet the other day, and so there's a few people who like talked about it before, but I'm like, you know what? Instead of going back and forth in a space, let's talk about it. Didn't you do a space about this already with Sharice? Yes, I did a space about this with Sharice maybe 2 years ago, but we didn't. No, it's 2025. 3 years ago. Wow, time is going by crazy. So yes, you're right, Never That. I did a space with her. It was like 2.5 hours, and the title is on my YouTube, Viral Debates. It's titled "We're Both Black American, Half Black American. What's the problem?" And we talk about a lot of things in that space. Quite a few other bi-ethnics were in that space who are like on the ground, boots on the ground in reparations work and just on Twitter streets. So yes, you're correct, but we didn't address like the core idea of dual allegiance. So that's the only thing we did not address. And so yeah, you're right though. You're right about that. So here's my tweet at the top. I would like for somebody to explain what dual allegiance means to you when it comes to bi-ethnic Black Americans. Yeah. Again, I was supposed to do this space at 7, but I got dinner reservations with my family, so I'm kicking this off earlier than I usually would. But yeah, I would like for somebody to pop in and just grab the mic. Somebody who is Black American on all sides that feels that bi-ethnics have a dual allegiance to grab the mic, or anybody who has an idea of what Black Americans feel when this word is brought up. Do you feel like Black Americans who are bi-ethnic have dual allegiance in any way? If so, why? If not, why not? I know that people in general have been saying this quite often, and I am annoyed by the fact that like there's so many assumptions out there when ethnic background and cultural upbringing contributes to how you display your ethnicity. And so everybody who is Black American is not the same. And with that same logic, everybody who is bi-ethnic is not the same. So the constant analogy that bi-ethnics have dual allegiance to me just does not make sense. I've met people who have a other mother and then a Black American father. If they grew up with their mother, then their cultural upbringing would be very different than mine, despite both of us being bi-ethnic. So I'm just really curious to know why there's constant like assumptions as to what bi-ethnics will do or won't do when it comes to the plight of Black Americans. Because it's very different across the board, just like a Black American from LA is different from New York City, just like a Black American from Chicago is different from Mississippi, just like the plight of a Black American from Atlanta is different from Nebraska. So my core point is that we differ. And I believe under that tweet, there was a few people going back and forth with themselves. I'll read what, okay. Okay, somebody said they're at work. They can't join. No problem. No problem. But I'll read what Ishmael said under the tweet. She said, it means that you're willing to ignore the transgressions against Black American people simply because you have an anecdotal experience and kindness mixed heritage. I think this is a good conversation that that needs to happen in good faith when we speak on bi-ethnic people. So yeah, I mean, those people are not in the space, but I'm just reading what they said under the tweet. Black Americans aren't asking anyone to pick between either side because we don't ask for, infringe on, or receive anything from for any other group. A tribute to Black America, and a tribute to the other side, to itself, and everything would be fine. Somebody said their allegiance is with God. Okay. Dual allegiance can be compromised, especially with those ethnicities is hostile to each other. Also, it forced that person to choose and remain neutral. See, I feel like y'all are coming up with like imaginary things. Like what are you talking about? Also, it can act like double agent. Please, somebody grab the mic and tell me what a double agent is. Like, this is not like some made up world, right? Like people have to have power to do the things that people are saying. I'm tired of this shit. Said dual allegiance is when you're half Black American, half other, but you live in the US, and rather than place the political, cultural, and financial goals of those you share a heritage with within their own nation first, you instead place the others' goals ahead of them. I would say that that does not sound like dual allegiance. However, I understand what you're saying with that. I think you're saying that what Ishmael said, which is essentially like the plight and the issues that one group faces in the nation in which you reside in, which is Black America, is ignored while you chase and nurture the other nation's goals and issues. I can see how that can be. In my opinion, that's not even dual allegiance. That's just allegiance to somewhere else. That's not even dual allegiance. That's reaping the benefits of being in one space and reaping the benefits of the ancestors from one place and using said benefits to further your other heritage. So to me, that's not even dual allegiance. That's straight up F this side of the family. I'm rocking with the other side. So I do like that. I do like that response, but I do feel like, again, that's not dual allegiance. That's somebody just taking from one heritage, and giving more attributes and more nurturing to the other heritage. So that's why I'm having this space, because I'm like, dual allegiance is not what y'all, I don't think y'all understand what dual allegiance means. Dual allegiance is dual citizenship, in my opinion. I don't have dual citizenship in two nations. Dual allegiance is somebody who's sending money back to their other family's line. I don't have that. I don't have that access. I don't have that luxury. I grew up with my Black American family. So this idea of dual allegiance is just like, I feel like you guys are thinking of like some type of video game or some type of movie where there's like a CIA agent spying on one nation. Thank you. Somebody grab the mic. And that's just not reality. Creole Bacon, please go ahead.
pulchritudinous. Yeah, I would say yeah, they do. And I would define dual allegiance as like having this sort of conflict of interest where you have to mediate between your two parents. It's normal. It's very normal. What I see though is that often they do have a favorite. They do have a favorite. Sometimes there are people who are bi-ethnic. Their favorite might be the Black American side, and then sometimes there are people. Most of the time, it's the other way around. Is that they identify more with their Jamaican flag or their I don't know, Barbadian flag or whatever, Bajan flag, than they do with their Black American side, even when it's their grandparents. Even when people have a grandparent from some foreign island or country, they will like wave that super proudly, whereas they won't really wave anything for, their Black American side. So that's what the dual allegiance is. I wouldn't even call it dual allegiance. I would just say that their primary allegiance is to, the foreign element in their bloodline.
Yes. We have somebody else grabbing the mic. Thank you. Um, so I hear that for sure, right? Um, that to me sounds like somebody, what I see a lot with people who are bi-ethnic, tri-ethnic, is that their other heritage is heavily promoted in their upbringing, and their Black American family is not put on a high pedestal in the same regard. And so if somebody grows up that way and they identify more with their other side, then that is not dual allegiance in my opinion. Again, that's them favoring their other heritage. Now, my question is, if a bi-ethnic person favors their other heritage, they're repping their flag more, they're promoting their flag more, they're promoting that heritage and culture more, right? Then that puts them in a position to where they're completely ignoring their heritage that is rich, Black American heritage. Um, and so I feel like if they're completely ignoring it, then they don't have dual allegiance. They literally only feel, prideful about one side. But go ahead, Hassan. Um,
Did he
I
come
don't,
back?
I don't think so. Al Hassan, I don't hear you. So maybe you could drop and I'll add you back, but I don't hear you, but it looks like you're off mute. Okay, yeah. There you go. Hmm.
Yeah, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't call it dual allegiance. I know a lot of people use that term. To me, what I see is just allegiance to the other side, whatever it is. And I think one of the best ways to see that is like when you see people with their flag emojis in their bio. They usually almost always have their other flag, or if they do have the American flag in there, they always put the American flag second. I don't think I've ever seen it the other way around. So yeah, I don't think it's dual allegiance. I just think it's allegiance to the other side.
Yeah, got you, got you. And I know some people put the American flag second because they're actually not even bi-ethnic at all. They're just whatever country, and then they're claiming American heritage because they were born here. So I know that some people do that as well.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
My bad. I'm speaking directly like to the people that have an American parent and a non-American parent, and it's actually you probably seen it's a trend on TikTok right now where they they show their African parent, it's usually the father, and then their Black American mother, whatever, and they do the same thing. So I've never seen it the other way around. I've never seen them put the American flag first.
Right, right, right. Go ahead, Tex Will.
Thank you, my sister. Hello, everyone, everybody, family. What's up? Um, I think bi-ethnics are not the only group that we have to give a side glance to. I think very few Black Americans have allegiance to Black America. I think most of us even when we say we're for Black America in terms of politics, we have an allegiance to one party or the other. Like we'll say we're pissed off at Democrats, and then we'll join the Republican Party and be quiet as church mouse on that side. People on the left, they have allegiance to a Democratic Party. People on the right have an allegiance to a Republican Party. And in neither case do they fight with their party for a Black agenda. So it's not just by ethnics. There's a lot of people that need to be they need to learn allegiance to our people and what that looks like. And what that looks like to me in politics is that you in a fight with whatever political party you choose for a Black agenda. You're not just leaving the Democratic plantation and jumping on to the Republican hay wagon and whistling Dixie. You don't just go from blue no matter who to red no matter what was said. So we have a problem with allegiance in the Black community. We have to, I think more and more, as we start building out the movement for Black politics, people will learn that, yeah, we should align with our people. And they'll jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, yeah, yeah. But right now, all we got is silos where people rep one party or the other. It's disgusting to me. It's really bad. It's really bad. I was in a room and I thought they were having a civil conversations, and I realized I was in a Democratic shield room and they wanted to beat me up because I didn't vote for Kamala Harris. You know? So it's like it's either one or the other, man. Like we got to be more sophisticated. You know what I'm saying? We need to fight for a Black agenda wherever we are, organize around that Black agenda, and fight for it. And we have to build our institutions, y'all. How are you going to have allegiance to Black America if you don't belong to a Black American institution or organization? All of us should be involved in at least 4 or 5 of them. But we have to create new organizations because the legacy organizations are falling short and they're actually working against us. So that's the task for the 21st century, to build out our organizations in all areas of people activity. Thank you.
Yeah, that actually moves the needle in the conversation because that was kind of like where I was going with one of my first points is like if someone who is bi-ethnic feels more prideful about their heritage from their other non-American parent, what if it's just them not growing up with proud ethnic Black Americanness? That's not me. I'm just speaking for those who I know who are Black American, bi-ethnic, non-American father, Black American mother, or vice versa. And it brings me to the thought of like, it's on their family and Black America to install that ethnic pride. And a lot of people that I grew up with in New York City, they don't have it. Even people in my family who are fully Black American don't have ethnic pride. And so, anyways, back to dual allegiance, I 100% agree with the point of like, we need more people having allegiance to the heritage regardless. And again, speaking for myself, I grew up with my Black American family. I grew up with my Black American mother. My mother was a single mother. My father raised us to a degree. And my father, see, that's another point that I wanted to add in. My father was not born outside of America. So he doesn't have the customs and cultures from his family that's not American. He grew up in Black America. So I grew up in a Muslim environment. Um, so I've only known my Black American heritage, culture, pride, family reunions. Um, that's what I grew up on. I've never learned how to cook any other food outside of soul food. So when people say, "Oh, you have a natural dual allegiance," I feel like you're assuming a whole lot about me that you don't know. Me growing up in New York City, I do have a lot of Caribbean friends, and so I learned a lot about my father's culture through those friends, but not from my father's family. So when people say because I'm celebrating both my heritages, my heritage, is that dual allegiance to you? Go ahead. I'm tired of this shit.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so to speak to your point, I don't think you celebrating both heritages in of itself is dual allegiance per se. I think that the argument that a lot of people tend to make about dual allegiance, it mostly comes down to, material issues. For instance, like um, the biggest thing right now, the biggest thing of contention in the lineage space is that we all are now forming a consensus on immigration. You know, we're all coming to the realization that, different groups, rather they're Africans or Caribbeans, we all have different political goals, different political aspirations. We're not all on the same page in that regard, even though our communities constantly get flattened into one. And I think a paranoia that a lot of Black Americans have is just that um, I think obviously as a bi-ethnic, you're going to want to care for both sides of your community. Now, something that might be good for Black America may be bad for, your other heritage. Like let's say Black America suddenly became, pro-ICE, pro-immigration, et cetera, because we realize that that has a negative effect on our communities. It would make a whole lot of sense for a bi-ethnic to be a little torn on that issue, because obviously we know that, how ICE conducts itself. It's not always for the best of those that are immigrants that are here in this nation. So I think for those of us that are kind of a little bit more on the cutthroat side, where we just like, listen, it's either one or the other. I think that's kind of like where the allegations of dual allegiance comes from. It's less about you being proud of all of your heritages, not you in particular, but just, this hypothetical bi-ethnic. It's not really about that. It's about a conflict of interest. That's what I think.
Thank you. I'm going to respond, but I'm going to let some other people talk. First, go ahead, Al Hassan.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you a question. You said you grew up in a Muslim environment.
Yes,
Okay, so do you trace your lineage through your father or your mother?
my mother.
Because Muslims is, or we trace our lineage through our father. You know that, right? Like so.
Um, I mean, I grew up in a Black American Muslim household, so the matriarch is the main point of person through the family. My grandfather is also a big, staple in our family. So I've traced my grandfather's heritage and my grandmother on my mother's side's heritage. My father's heritage is very hard to trace. The records are not that easily accessible. But what's your point?
No, I was just asking because I was checking, but yeah, that's not Muslims trace our lineage through our father, and Black Americans, and we're not matriarchal at all. Like we're not.
Yes, we are.
No, no, we are not.
Yes, we are.
How would you know that?
We live in a matriarchal society, like
No,
a
no, no.
matrilineal society. Yes, we do.
If we were a matrilineal society, you'd be taking your mother's last name. We are not matriarchal or
We
matrilineal. We're just
are.
not.
Yes, we are. We literally, the slave got the status of the mother. Yes, we've
Right.
always
So
been.
you, no, no, we have not. So you talking about something that happened several hundred years ago during the time of duress. That's
That's
an
not
exception to the
several
rule.
hundred
No,
years
we're not.
ago.
We're not
We should
Yes,
matriarchal.
probably
it
stay
is.
on topic.
Yeah, but
Yeah, let's
yeah,
yeah.
that's 100%. We live in a matrilineal society. Go ahead, Mama Jersey.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, Quad? This is what I have to say to it.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm 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 100% Black American, right? But me and you are both from the same area. I believe you're from New York. But I'm from New Jersey. I'm 20 minutes outside of New York City. Um, I've known by some by ethnic children, and when they have spoken about how they have grown up when they're half Black American, well, they've told me all of these bi-ethnic children that I know, is that other side always talks shit about the Black American side. Like, and that's one thing that has always stuck out to me. Like, it's just like their family that's not Black American has always had something negative to say about us. So how I would say, because I have a daughter who's 13, right? If my daughter was to bring home someone by ethnic, half Black American and half whatever else, I would want them to not be raised by the other side. I would want them to be basically raised by their Black American side and have little interaction with the other side. I know that sounds fucked up, but I think that lessens the chance of them having a dual allegiance, because they only know their Black American side pretty much. And they don't have that negative connotation that a lot of, like I said, the bi-ethnics that I have known have said that, that other side has always talked down on that Black American side. So they don't have that. So, and yes, I do believe that they grow up with a dual allegiance, especially in our area, because how Pan-Africanism has set up in the New York, New Jersey area. They see, I was born in a basically a primary Black American neighborhood, so my interaction with African and Caribbeans, came much later. We were never as bad as New York City. But what they basically did when they came over here, they wanted us to be ashamed of being Black American. They kind of wanted us to tuck that in, like, oh, you're American, you're a regular Black. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck is a regular Black? We just Black American. You're not exotic because you come from another country. Like, and I'm just, being honest, you know what I'm saying? So it's like it's just this thing where these other groups, and I mean all immigrant groups, for some reason have this dislike of Black Americans, and we haven't gone in their country and fucked it up. We haven't done anything to them. So yes, I think if the bi-ethnic child is raised around both, I think they're gonna have a dual allegiance. And like I said, with my daughter, if she brings home someone bi-ethnic, I just would not want. I would want them to have very little dealings with their outside family, or just be primarily raised by their Black American side.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong for saying that, because I feel like the goal is to mingle with the ethnicity and the heritage. My question to you is, when it comes to dual allegiance, when you say that, right, what do you mean by that? Like, you feel like they're going to sabotage their Black American heritage by any means necessary using their other heritage? Or do you mean like if they become, let's say, like are they, because these are regular people, right? And so again, if somebody grows up in two different and they have two different ethnicities in their household, um, them showing pride for those two different ethnicities and growing up that way, that is the fault of their Black American family not giving them that ethnic pride, right? But if they grow up to be like governor, that's when I can say, okay, that person has dual allegiance, because now they're making policies for communities that can affect Black American communities. But if we talking about average, regular people who they may show a lot, they may show, culturally that they're aligned with their other heritage, that to me doesn't sound like dual allegiance. That sounds like they just don't have the ethnic pride. That doesn't sound like they have any power to even really have dual allegiance. So I'm going back to the technical definition of the term dual allegiance. They don't have dual citizenship. They have no power. They're not in a position of power. Um, and so that to me sounds like that person just lacks ethnic pride, for specifically Black American ethnic pride. Um, Creole bacon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's unrealistic what some people are asking for and what some people expect. It's just the case that people want to identify with their parents, but also with their father. There are stories of people who grew up without their dad, and their dad is some African or Caribbean or whatever, and they still have that flag, right? They still. I mean, Tyler Creator made a whole song, and we've heard his statements about what he thinks about his father's people, but made a whole song about wanting that connection. So I think that's just a natural human thing. But I also want to point out that I've seen people who had deadbeat fathers who literally will still rep their father's people and will attack Black Americans. And so I think that we have an obligation to be skeptical of anybody, right, who has a foreign dad, right, who's saying that they're Black American and all of that. I mean, you can be skeptical. It doesn't mean that person's going to necessarily be a traitor or a threat or anything like that. But I understand the suspicion there. And my family, for instance, I identify with my father's line, right? I have cousins. They have my mother's maiden name, right? But they're different. They have that last name. I have my father's last name, and that's the fact for a lot of Black Americans. Is that we identify with our dads on birth certificates. You will get the father's name, and it's understood that, at least according to our churches, right, according to our faith, that men are leaders of the household. So I understand that you grew up in like a sort of different situation. New York is a interesting place, but that is just the case in America, and it's the case for
No,
Black
that's not what
Americans.
I was saying at all. Having your father's last name does not mean that you don't live in a matrilineal society. That's a whole different situation. It is common and customary to take the man's last name. That is a European tradition. That is customary. That's not what I'm talking about when I say that we live in a matrilineal society. That those are two different topics. So don't confuse the two.
Well,
Um,
last names are a European tradition. A lot of cultures didn't have last names until Europeans colonized them,
okay.
right?
So again, though, what I'm trying to say is that was an offside topic. But what I'm saying to you specifically is that taking your father's last name versus having the culture of your father or ethnic identification of your father are two different conversations. Um, when that person brought up, your genealogy running through your father's line, that's a whole different conversation. I've traced both my mother's side and a little bit of my father's side. But again, if we're talking about ethnicity and how your ethnicity shows up in your household, it will be different from family to family. And the way that I grew up is very much so like a lot of Black Americans. So my question is back to the actual term of dual allegiance. Again, if somebody is showing pride for heritages, and let's just say, like, yeah, I know a lot of people who they've never met their father, they've never met their mother, but they're repping that flag very heavily. I know a guy who's half Puerto Rican, half Nigerian. I'm an actress, so I met him on set, and he only identifies with his Nigerian heritage. Um, to me, a lot of those people, that's not even Black American, right? But to me, from what I grasped from that person was that that's the only side that has a heavy influence in his life, and he finds more social capital. He finds that side to be more valuable than the other Puerto Rican side. And so my next question, I'm tired of this shit talk, but my next question is, back in the 60s, we were, as a nation, we were heavily Pan-African. Is it our fault that bi ethnics don't have ethnic Black American pride when it comes to choosing heritage? Again, not talking about me, but what you guys are describing is very common for a lot of bi ethnics. I find that in my upbringing, the reason why people choose their other side versus their American side is because their American side, their Black American side, has not been ethnically pushed to the forefront in certain cities like New York City, like New Jersey, and those other heritages, those other lineages and ethnicities have been promoted, have been celebrated more than Black American heritage. So is it that we as a people, our ancestors as a people, did not install ethnic pride early enough with markers like Dr. Claude Anderson says? Every time I'm in New Jersey, on the north side of Newark, they got Puerto Rican flags on the street, like hung on the pole. Where is the Black American Heritage flag? Because the Black American Heritage flag was created in Linden, New Jersey. Where is the flag in Newark, in Patterson, in Brooklyn? Where is it? So again, we can get back to the term of dual allegiance, but I feel like, this is my theory, that because our ancestors in the 50s, 60s, 70s, as a nation, included all of these people under flat blackness, we now have a problem with people who are multiple ethnicities only wanting to claim one side because of that social capital. But now we see the tides turning. And now we see that because being an ethnic Black American has, and always has had a lot of social capital, people are now claiming that more so. Let me go to I'm tired of this shit and then Mama Jersey. And no, I'm sorry. I'm tired of this shit, Elijah Young, and then Mama Jersey.
Okay, you definitely raised a really good point. Um, I do think that the previous generation set the stage for what we're dealing with now, which is just this continuous way of being where you just view anything that's other than Black American as more exotic. And I do think that that current that precedence that was set is now coming to a head because now it's being challenged by, people who didn't cultivate that environment, but are now faced with that uh, that baggage that was left behind. And now I guess you can kind of look at it like before, bi-ethnics choosing their other side probably would have been looked at as okay. Nobody probably would have batted an eye about that. So I guess for bi-ethnics, it's kind of hard for you guys now because you're probably being held to a metric that you've never been held to before. And uh, back to earlier with Texwell's point, where he mentioned about how some Black Americans themselves, full Black Americans, aren't on code with all of Black America. So I guess after having this conversation, I'm starting to understand that it might be a little unfair for us to hold you guys to a metric that we don't hold to regular everyday Black Americans or even biracials, for instance. So I guess I get that. But on the same token, it's a little tough to try to how should I put this? It's a little tough trying to put ourselves in your position, not you in particular, but just by ethnics as a collective, because we're looking at it like you're in our country, you're in your country as well, but you're in the homeland of the people who you share a heritage with. Like you're not over in Jamaica, you're not in Nigeria. So from our perspective, it's a little hard for us to accept that you can feel such a closeness or such an attachment or be partial to a nation that you don't even live in a culture you never grew up in. Like it's to this point now where you have bi ethnics that have only grew up in Black American culture, who have only lived around Black Americans, but still choosing their foreign culture. It's like what's that chick name? The one who played on Abbott Elementary. Her name is Cheryl something. Anyway, she's half Black American and half Jamaican. Her Black American father was in her life, and she even had kids with a Black American man, but she still claims Jamaican, and even to the point that her kids now, only being 25% Jamaican, claim Jamaican. So I do think that there's a conversation that needs to be had about bi-ethnics or multi-ethnic people, but maybe we do need to tailor the conversation in a different direction as opposed to just singularly putting y'all in the hot seat and expecting y'all to answer for a lot of the things that we help create as mono-ethnic Black Americans. So yeah, that's my piece on that.
Thank you. You snapped on that, and I agree. And I'm gonna respond, but I'm gonna let Elijah Young go first.
No, what I gotta say is, it wouldn't even matter if you was bi ethnic if your other side didn't have a hatred for Black Americans. It would not even matter. We would just call they would just be riders. Your other side would be riders. They just not Black American. Everybody's always waving another motherfucking flag on American soil. It doesn't make any sense. Everybody's so prideful and they love their flag so much, but they're on another land. It's not making no sense. Driving down a Jamaican block, and you trying to hold so close to that damn Jamaican flag, just go the fuck home. Get your coins and then go home. The problem that we having is it's just too much disrespect. It's just I feel like I'm in a twilight zone. Black Americans have been fucking mowing the fucking grass, has been shoveling the snow for everybody else that has black skin that comes behind us. It doesn't make any sense. We're on the highest fucking stages consistently. Consistently, we're at the top of everything. If we were fucking Pokemon cards, all of our cards would be gold. It doesn't make any sense. Why is everybody trolling it? I just feel I'll be looking like, damn, is we not on every screen? Is we're not opening up every fucking door? Are we not on every stage that there could be? We're on every stage. We barely see the fucking Puerto Rican flag. We barely see the Jamaican flag. All the music sounds the same. Y'all trolling. Everybody is fucking trolling. This is crazy. By ethnic, it wouldn't be no problem if your peoples was a writer. It's only a problem because you go to your other side of the family and there's somebody saying something about Black Americans. That's the issue. If my girl was Jamaican, we had a buck, her family was good, everything is good. Everything is smooth. I take my child over there and then they saying some stupid shit. I'm like, oh yeah, you can't take my kid over there no more. You know what I mean? You can't take my kid around them. It's jealousy. But I just don't understand why everybody is jealous of Black Americans when they just keep shoveling the snow and opening up doors for everybody. It doesn't make no sense. You know what I mean? So we fed up. Obviously, that's just the solution. We fed up. So now we coming at everybody. Everybody gotta get the smoke. Yeah, I mean, niggas that is riders is getting the smoke. You standing too close to tethers. Ha ha ha. You getting one. You catch one. You standing too close to anybody now. That's literally what's happening. Some of the riders are standing too close to the tethers because you like, all right, you saying something about Jamaica, but we not specifically talking about Jamaica. We talking about the person, and they're from Jamaica, and they want to be holding up the same flag, so they getting one too. So that's kind of what's going on. Like, man, this shit crazy. But it wouldn't be a problem if everybody was riding. You know what I mean? Everybody's on American soil and they talking that shit. We wouldn't give a fuck about what Nigerians was talking about if they on their own land. They a million miles away. Everybody is coming here and they're talking some shit. For the New Yorkers, yeah, the Black American New Yorkers, they just got them over there. The Mexicans, the Dominicans, everybody over there just doing any fucking thing, and then they spreading out, and then they come down to the South, and we like, don't come down here with that bullshit. We will put you in a trunk. Don't come down here saying nigga. Don't come down here saying we ain't got no culture. And this is the culture thing just don't be making no sense because everybody's saying we ain't got no culture and they're dressing like us, dancing like us, talking like us, walking like us. It just don't make no sense. It's just the Twilight Zone. It's all trolling. So now we just coming at everybody. So everybody's just getting built up tension and built up energy. So that's how I see it.
Thank you. Mama Jersey.
I'm gonna say something to what he just said about the no culture. I was thinking I've been thinking about why they say that for years, right? And 2 weeks ago I figured out why they were saying it. And Africans and Caribbeans are the only people who say Black Americans don't have a culture. I've never heard any group, white, anybody else say Black Americans don't have a culture. It's only them, and I figured it out. What I figured out is that if you say Black Americans don't have a culture, when you immigrate to America, what they're basically saying is that I don't have to respect you when I come over here because you don't have a culture. And when I thought about it, I said, shit, that's what the fuck they doing. They just said, I don't have to respect you coming over here because if I say you don't have anything, then when I come here, because we're not going over to their countries in mass numbers, they're over here by the millions. It's just like, I don't have to respect you at all. It's a fucked up way of their tribalism. It's basically a fucked up way and a roundabout way of going through their tribalism when I thought about it. And it took me years and years to figure that out. Because I was like, I was like, I really don't understand why they say that when you look at Black Americans, what we built, what we have accomplished, and our accomplishments outweigh yours. So, and when I thought about it, I said it's so fucked up how they're doing it. But this is why I'm not a Pan African. Is because of when over the years, as I've thought about everything, I just said, um, they just don't seem like they want to come over here for, for Black Americans. What they're coming over here for, they're just coming over here, to be around white people because they feel um white people are kind of like their saviors. They're running away from each other, and they don't want to build up their homelands. It's like it's very hard work to build up your it's very hard work to build up your homeland. um what I've been saying to some of them is that, listen, I know it's hard work to build up your homeland, but this is something that y'all have to do. I've told them, I said, I'm tired of many of you blaming America for everything. You have colonial masters that you're still in bed with. How can you blame America for what your colonial masters have done to you, and your leadership aligning with your colonial masters in the United States? Like, but I told them, I said, it's easier to blame America than for you to fix up your country. But I want to get back to what Kwa said. Yes, a lot of what the ethnics go through are from a lack of Black American cultural pride. It really is. Part of it is our fault because we weren't saying, listen, we're Black Americans, we're a separate and distinct ethnic group. This is the culture that we have cultivated through slavery, through Jim Crow, our resilience, our music, our food. Part of it is our fault too, whether we would like to admit it or not. I think what Black Americans did, like Quad said, we just went over the delusion of Pan Africanism and saying, listen, we're gonna step back because we feel we have some connection to people outside of our ethnic group. We really do not have a connection to these people. Like, we don't. It's like you developed how you developed in Africa. Other people developed how they developed in the Caribbean, and we developed how we developed in the United States. I'm not saying racially we're not all Black, but ethnically and culturally we're just not the same people anymore. um I think Black Americans have been too friendly with all immigrant groups, not just the ones who have the same complexions as us. We've just been too friendly with everybody, allowing people to come into our social and economic atmospheres without giving anything back. And what happens, and I've been going through this in my personal life, just looking, you know what I'm saying, because I'm 45. You start looking back on your life, you know what I'm saying, half your life is over, and you say to me sometimes to yourself, shit, I just been way too nice. And me being way too nice is what got me in certain situations, and I have to admit that to myself. So I'm like, I have to admit that about my people too. We just been way too nice, and I've allowed people to make us marks and kind of walk over on us because we've just been so friendly and been so nice. So it's just something that we have to come to terms with. We allow Pan-Africanism and being friendly to kind of blind us. We've allowed others to, like I said, come in our circles without putting anything in the circle. Everybody got to put something in the pot. If everybody's not putting nothing in the pot, then the person putting everything in the pot is being used, and we just have to admit that we allow people to use us. Like, we Black Americans have to admit that. So it's just one of them things where we didn't give the ethnics a sense of cultural pride in being Black American, and that's something that we have to be accountable for.
Thank you. That was very well said. Also, let me just introduce my name because it is Arabic, and I know that some people might have a hard time saying it, but it's Qadira. In Arabic, there is no U after the Q, so just Qadira,
Oh,
not
my
Claudia.
bad.
Yes, okay, no problem. Qadira. Go ahead, Texwell.
Thank you, Sister Kadira. It makes perfect sense why people come here and disrespect Black Americans. It makes perfect sense. There's no mystery because we have been the love people. And you know what happens when you have love, what do you call it? Unconditional love for people. And that's what we've had. Tell me the benefit, the actual benefit of being a Black American in America right now. Do you have institutions that support you, that defend you against your enemies and against those who would harm you, against those who would use you, those who would sabotage you? How many institutions can you count on that's repping for your set? Who will want to join a set or respect a set that doesn't have institutional power? All other ethnicities, from Africa to Caribbean, from Asia, from Europe, they have institutional power. They set up institutions for their ethnic group, their nationality, or their nation of origin. That's what Caribbeans done. That's what Asians have done. That's what Africans have done. That's what Europeans have done. And so, why would you respect a group who does not have boundaries, who does not have uh, a system, a network of institutions that rep them, that advocate for them? It makes perfect sense because you can double dip. You can say I'm Black American for the benefits, and then you can say I'm whatever else I am. So you can double dip. Who would want to? Who don't want to double dip? Who don't want a freebie, huh? And so people have had a freebie. They was able to take from what we had and then build what they got. So can you blame people for doing that? Nope. We have to change how we relate to people. And first of all, what we got to do is come together and build our institutions. No hate. This is not hate. This is love talk, like Malcolm said. This is love speech. This is not hate speech. If we love ourselves and we love our people, let's build our institutions. That's why I'm a member of ADOS Advocacy Foundation. But you could choose your organization or start one. Like I said, we need institutions in all areas of people activity: medical, finance and business, communication, entertainment, education, trade, skill, many different areas of people activity, agriculture, you name it. We got work to do. And when we start building those institutions, then people won't come off the porch and talk with and say what they say. When we start building institutions, they're not going to jump off the porch no more. They're going to say, okay, what can we do together? How can we help you? And how maybe you can help us and we can help you. But nobody respects the people that don't build a house.
To that point, right? That's a good point. To that point, you know, I feel like bi-ethnics or even just others, they don't even have to be bi-ethnic. The people like Elijah Young said, some people have never even been to the other country and they rep it hard. Like I've grown up with people who are fully Nigerian, never been to Nigeria, but they got the Nigerian flag in their bio and that's all they talk about, which makes sense with their parents being Nigerian, right? But the people, the bi-ethnics and those people who rep their flag harder than, their other heritage or just where their 2 feet stand, a lot of the times it's because of what you just said. It's because they find more value in doing so. And when we look at historically policies and such, they're they were lynching black men. So if you were able to differentiate yourself from being a black American, then there's a sense of like where you get to live another day, if that makes sense. I don't know if you ever seen the show Power, where Tasha gets pulled over by a cop and she changes her accent to a Trinidadian accent, and then the cop lets her go. There's a sense of social capital before that comes with identifying as something other than the ex-slaves. And so I do see your point of like we have to build that ethnic pride, that peoplehood, and it needs to be it needs to be easily pointed out. I should be able to go to any neighborhood and be like, that's a black American neighborhood. But because a lot of people don't have that, like Chinatown or like Little Italy, that ethnic pride is just not there. And so I thank y'all for being able to jump in on that. I do want to go back to what I'm tired of this ish said. Somebody said, why are they waving flags when they're not even over there? I could tell y'all from firsthand experience, it's insecurity. It's insecurity. When you feel more secure about your other side and you feel insecure about your ethnic Black American side, you're going to rep the other side. It's just insecurity. Um, Real talk, keeping it 100, my Black American mother did not install Black American pride in any way that I could remember. Outside of family reunions, outside of Soul Food, there's nothing specific that she said, this is what Black Americans do. These are our values. This is what we're proud of. Outside of obviously all of our historic figures, I had to learn that pride early in my late teens, in my early 20s, because I saw the discrepancy. When people would be like, where you from? I'd be like, I'm Black. You know, there was no delineation in my days growing up in Brooklyn. I'm Black. They'd be like, nah, but where you really from? Oh, my family's from the South and my father's from Jamaica. And it's like, oh yeah, you're Jamaican. They would automatically associate me with the other side. They wouldn't even respect my Black American heritage. So experiencing that made me want to make it clear, like, no, I'm Black American. Like, that's actually a factor. It was almost like they ignored that being a factor of who I was. And so when you see other people repping their flags and they've never been to that country, or they're just not even associated with that country, it's all insecurity. They really don't feel that strongly about where they're from, because if they did, like Elijah said, they would want to go back. So I'm gonna go to I'm tired of this ish.
Okay, so two things. Um, the first thing I really want to address is, now that I actually rethink this conversation, I really have to question if it's about whether Black Americans have pride or not, or if it's more about the fact that we're home. Because one thing that I notice about immigrant groups, the reason why they have to plaster their flag all over the place is because that functions as some self-assurance for them. You know, it's an overcompensation. They have to do that because the way that they come to the U.S., they already have the understanding that they're competing for resources. You know, Black Americans, being that we're one of the founding populations, we've never been, under a circumstance where we felt um, we had to, adorn our entire environment and things that remind us of us, because we already knew we were home. But I do think that things are changing now, to where we're going to have to ramp up, the ethnic pride and showcasing it here and there, just because the demographics are changing in this nation. Um, but I want to go back to like the topic of the group, which is just the dual allegiance thing. And I've kind of been playing with this thought in my head, recently. And I look at the U.S. The U.S. is like a settler colonial state where, it was created and founded off of slavery and the genocide of indigenous people. And, the United States isn't unique to that. That type of framework has been done all over the world, particularly Israel. And when I reflect on that, I think to myself, like, imagine a Palestinian, right, that is half Palestinian and half Israeli, and you're looking at the oppression and the occupation that Palestinian people are going through right now, and you would have to wonder, like, would it be unfair to ask a Palestinian person to have sympathy, or to try to, what's the word I'm looking for, to try to be understanding of them having dual heritage as an Israeli and Palestinian. And this is all hypothetical, of course. Um, I believe that Palestinians would demand of that by ethnic to align more and be more partial to their cause and their issues and their culture than the colonizer. It's kind of like the same framework, that Black Americans have typically expected out of people that are considered biracial. It's like, you know that your other heritage is oppressing us. You know that your other heritage, is known for thievery and taking and accrediting other things to themselves. It's like, why in the hell would you ever want to straddle the fence with both sides? Like, oh, I don't know what to do. These my people here, but these my people too. So from our perspective, we've always like, hey, if you with them, fuck you. But if you with us, then we got you. And I think Black Americans feel the same way typically with by ethnics. Because if you ask me, I don't think you can be a good person and immigrate to the US unless you're a refugee. I truly don't think you can be a good person and knowingly immigrate to a nation that's founded on slavery and genocide just because you want a better life, right? So I'm already looking at these people like, y'all are a bunch of buffer classes, y'all morally bankrupt, and you're opportunistic. So when I look to a person that is, half Caribbean, half African, it's like, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's like, either you want to be with us or you with them. So I think that's the position that a lot of people are having, because we're not looking at these groups over here as individual cultures, right? Because it's not like they're just coming here and being harmless. A lot of the times these people are coming here to usurp Black Americans. They are coming here to further push us in a bottom caste. They are coming here uh, to dwindle and take away resources, and basically just trying to take our position essentially in this nation, right? So this is not a matter of just a cultural difference and you just wanting to, as a bi-ethnic, to express both sides of your culture. No, this is a matter of, these are morally bankrupt individuals, and they're coming over here and they are being used as a buffer cast by white people, and they are being positioned in direct opposition to Black Americans. So I do think that for by ethnics that are on the right side of history, or just their understanding of, the socioeconomic and socio-political plight of Black Americans, they have the understanding that this is where more of my focus should be. This is where um more of my support should be. But for those by ethnics that aren't in the know, like, I guess they're going to face a lot of distrust and a lot of frustration, because a lot of Black Americans are just now realizing just how badly we've been screwed over and how badly we've been done by other collectives. So it's hard for us to really sympathize to a point. So that's basically what I want to close out with, is that I look at Black American situation similarly to the situation of Palestine with the Palestinians and other groups and collectives, and not from like a Marxist standpoint, but just from an oppressed group and an oppressor standpoint. And I think it's not totally unreasonable that Black Americans are expecting by ethnics to be more partial to their Black American side. And those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you're saying. I feel like if you are bi-ethnic and you are currently in the United States, it's absolutely asinine to not have more allegiance to your to your Black American identity, your heritage. I think the reason why I posed the question is because I feel like there's this weird assumption. Can you mute yourself?
Oh, sorry.
No problem. I think there's this weird assumption that every Black American who's bi-ethnic has dual allegiance. So everything you said is spot on. I do feel like, for me specifically, there's no dual allegiance, simply because I was raised in Black America. I was raised around my Black American family. I have no intentions on moving outside of the US. And so I feel like every Black American, bi ethnic or not, should have allegiance to the problems that we face in Black America, where our 2 feet stand. And for those, even culturally, I feel like it's a problem culturally, where you're representing another heritage that is not American. I think it's an issue when there's a little China, when Chinatown, there's a little Italy, there's a little Caribbean in Brooklyn where I grew up, where I've only known Black Americans to live. I've only known formerly enslaved Black Americans to build Weeksville, Crown Heights, and that has now turned into Little Caribbean. I don't want erasure. I don't want my Black American heritage erased in any capacity. And I don't think by ethnics understand how much erasure is going on at this moment. And so I'm agreeing with you. I'm just saying the assumption needs to stop. The assumption that everybody who has multiple heritage, multiple ethnicities, um, is a dual agent in any capacity. That is annoying. That is dead ass annoying. You have no idea how every person grew up. There's people, their siblings, and their siblings stand in two different places. I know people where the brother's more Black American. They're both bi-ethnic, but the brother's more a prideful Black American, and the sister is not. Everybody grow up differently. And so based on your actual home and cultural upbringing, that really contributes to how prideful you are about your ethnic Black American heritage. And furthermore, I do feel like there's folks who gotta just, grow up. I did, like somebody said earlier, I did a space 3 years ago with another bi-ethnic girl, and she admitted to being more inclined with her Jamaican heritage than her Black American family. But once she became an adult, she was young. Once she hit like 20, she switched entirely. She did a whole 180. And now she's more prideful about her Black American heritage. But that's because she had to realize. So there's some young folk out there that just don't know no better. And then you got people that's adults that just don't have the ethnic pride. But again, to your point, I feel like they should, and they should be demanded to, just like you gave the example of a Palestinian, a half Palestinian and a half Israelite. It's like, but in that case, the Israelite is the oppressor. Jamaicans are not our oppressor. Trinidadians are not our oppressor, but they're culturally erasing us in certain spaces. And so, yes, I would agree with you that they should have more pride to their Black American heritage. But please stop assuming that there's dual allegiance in any capacity for every Black American who's bi-ethnic. That's just not the case. It literally all comes down to your cultural upbringing. Somebody brought up last names. I know people who have their daddy last name and never met their daddy. So if you got your father last name, but you've never met your father and you've only grown up with your mother, your cultural heritage is going to be totally different. So I just want that to be understood. All right. Well, I'm my bad. I'm gonna talk. I,
You went out. What you say?
oh, my bad. I said Mama Jersey. You got it.
Okay. Um. Right now, I think my ethnics are in a very bad spot right now. To be honest with you, because of the ascendance of Black Americans claiming our culture, I honestly think all Afro immigrants, whether they know it or not, are becoming in a much um in a bad position. So even if it's just for to claim America, I honestly think it's the time for Black American by ethnics to do what they have to do. And the reason why I think by ethnics and Afro immigrants are in a bad position um is basically because the Supreme Court is going to be talking about the 14th Amendment. The country is leaning against a lot of the country is leaning against immigration. And if these things go a certain way, the African and Caribbean population is going to fall within the next 5 to 15 years. It's going to fall off of a cliff pretty much. Um, the next thing I want to tell y'all is that I've been listening to, I don't know if y'all know him, O'Shea Duke Jackson. um, in regards to Pan Africanism, and it just doesn't work. Like, he's currently in Africa, and he's basically like, in order for us to survive, if we go to Africa, we're gonna have to delineate from Africans, even from in Africa, because it's just very difficult to work with them. So I think a lot of Black Americans are just realizing the falsehood of Pan Africanism, and I think the country is going in a totally different way when it comes to immigration. So even for their survival, I think more about ethnics need to come aboard to the Black American side.
Text well.
Thank you. I don't think we can take solace in the fact that America is becoming anti-immigrant because immigrants have solidified their power base in this country, and they can wield power over Black American ethnic group as things stand because they have moved into power situations. Like their influence and their voice in all areas of people activity has eclipsed Black Americans. So they're in the power positions. Like, just a small factoid, there are more Jamaicans in America and Canada than there are in Jamaica. So they could still run the show because they're overrepresented in all areas. They're overrepresented in politics, in business, in media. So they already have a big voice. So we just can't count on somebody like Donald Trump being anti-immigrant to say, "Oh, that's going to solve the problem." We have to assert ourselves in these people activity areas and take back control in accordance to our numbers, in accordance to our representation. We're the largest ethnic majority in America outside of Germans, and we have to have representation that reflects our numbers. So we've been asleep at the wheel, but now we're waking up. But I don't think uh, Caribbeans are holding on to their flags because of insecurity. I think Black people have too much security. I think Black people, we don't know, like most Black people are not in these spaces. And most Black people still hold on to flat Blackness. And most Black people still believe in Pan Africanism. And that's a fact that people don't want to admit. Everybody's not in this space. Everybody's not in this reparations disaggregation delineation space. We got to realize that most of our people are still under the spell of Pan Africanism. Most of our people see the world in flat Blackness, and we got work to do to wake people up to the fact that the world don't operate on skin color, right? So Jamaicans are not insecure. Caribbeans are not insecure. They have a network of institutions that they can fall back on. When they put their flag up, that's like a Batman signal to, hey, where my people at? This is what I'm building, and who wants to build it with me? So we're getting there, but we got a long way to go. So we can't take a solace in that. Now these people to be afraid, or no, because they have their own caucus. They have a Caribbean caucus in Washington. They have an African caucus in Washington. So we need a Black American caucus, and that's what we have to facilitate, y'all. Got work to do. We got to build these institutions up. I don't care if it's a neighborhood group. I don't care if it's a study group. I don't care if it's you know, a bowling group or a group on your job. A study group on your job or a reparations club on your job. Or we have to do this, y'all, because everybody else is doing it. We're late.
Well, thank you all for joining the conversation. I want to end on this. Um, I don't agree with the idea that my position is I'm in a bad space because I'm bi-ethnic. My mother's Black American. I'm Black American as well. And I did a video on my YouTube about the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship. I'm sorry, I'm out of breath. I ran upstairs. But nonetheless, I'm very well situated in my ethnicity. And all the work that I do is for my ancestors. So at the end of the day, I don't feel like bi-ethnics are in a bad position. I do, however, feel um like someone said, um you need to have more ethnic pride because of the position that we're in. There's no excuse for erasure, and if you're participating in erasure in any way, then I cannot associate myself with those type of people. I don't even associate myself with Black Americans, fully Black Americans who participate in erasure, because, like Texwell said, there's a lot of Pan-African Black Americans who believe in that, like way more than us on Twitter who are delineating. And so when I get around them type of people, them Sambos, I don't mess with them. And they'll ask me, but you're part Jamaican, and my grandparents were sharecroppers. That means a lot to me. My aunties are still alive. They still nurture me. My Black American family means a whole lot to me.
What they
And
number
so
is? What they number is? The
what,
aunties.
what's their number? I would have to check. I don't know. But like I could go on. Like, I've heard my aunties tell me stories about how they've been replaced, how like they were the original people working in the hospitals, and how the Caribbeans and the Hispanics came and now they're the main nurse assistants and things of that sort. And that doesn't feel good to me. I've had stories of my Jamaican family members buying properties, but my grandparents never owning properties. That doesn't feel good to me, and it doesn't benefit by ethnics in any way, because, like I said, I was raised by my mother's side. So if my grandparents was able to pass down wealth to me, then I would be in a better position as a Black American. But because the wealth was transferred in New York specifically, Caribbean Americans were able to purchase property, were able to have better jobs just because they were seen as the more docile and acceptable Blacks at the time. I'm now in a position where I have no money. I don't have any money, but I have no wealth passed down by my Black American family. And so it doesn't benefit by ethnics in any way to participate in erasure. And so, like I said, the topic is, do bi ethnic Black Americans have dual allegiance? I think, number one, if they don't have a position of power, if they don't have dual citizenship, then there's no real true dual allegiance. If they're only repping their other heritage, then they're literally only loyal to that other side, whether that's whatever it is. And I think a lot of us need to stop assuming. A lot of us just need to do the work of making sure we identify our neighborhoods and we stamp them. But then I could go back to the other point of, we're already home. We're already home. And it was never necessary to put, like, would you put a sign on your lawn and say, "This is my home"? Is that necessary? When you own the home, would you put a sign outside and said, "This is my home"? I don't think that's necessary. But to Textbow's point, right? I think it is at this point, because now you have immigrants in positions of power, congregating in positions of leadership, in positions, they like the Indians run the tech industry. That is crazy, when our people were the inventors, our people were the innovators. How the hell did we let the Indians run the tech industry when a Black woman created the GPS system? That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. Our people were the original mathematicians, the scientists, right? So we do have to put a sign out and say, "This is my home." Unfortunately, but we weren't in that space mentally before. And so I think by ethnics, they will feel more of a ethnic pride and a willingness to claim, and I'm talking about the young bi ethnics. I'm not talking about the older ones, because the ones that's older and they only claim half, they're gone. But I'm talking about the younger ones. They are starting to feel the need to represent that Black American side more if we start to show that in every capacity. So we unfortunately do got to put a flag, Black American flag, on our lawn and say, "This is our block, and you others cannot run this block. We run this block." And if we did that 50 years ago, we wouldn't be in this position, I feel like. And so we also have to accept fault on behalf of our ancestors for being so goddamn Pan-African and so goddamn, flat with the blackness and the heritage and just us allowing everybody in our house. And so I'll conclude on that. And the only other thing I have to say is that you got to be careful for everybody. It's not just by ethnics. Don't jump the gun and think because somebody's by ethnic that they are, an op. They might be, but I've ran into so many Black Americans who don't understand the delineation track. They don't get it, and it's a little scary. So you really got to look out for all types of people, for real. And like Texwell said, they're building institutions for their people. I've taught in Brooklyn. I went to a school in Bushwick. I've also taught as a teacher in that school, and they're only speaking Spanish. How the hell does a public school have classrooms where there's only Spanish speaking and throughout the entire school in America? That is crazy. They're building institutions in neighborhoods. We got to catch up and do the same, but we have to do it under an ethnic sense, no longer under a racial sense. Okay, I'm gonna end it on that. Thank y'all for joining the space. Thank you for all the input. And we'll have this conversation again. I wanted to get some more by ethnics in the room because I feel like I'm the only one, but I did have this conversation before with like 5 others, and they gave me their side and their input too. Like some people from Detroit, some people from the South. Some people like to say that's just a New York thing. You know how many people I know in the South who's experienced the same thing and they're not in a major city? So we'll have this conversation again. Thank y'all though.